You're hilarious. So I'm reading this book called Shakti Woman, and um, from what I got from it, because I only read basically chapter one. It's really talking about the dark feminine, right? And um, what's being called, what not what's being called, but um, what I just finished reading was something about how a lot of the our feminine energy, why women, tend to be depressed and all of these things is because we suppress that dark side, right? That that side. And I'm saying that because I found myself realizing that um fear was coming up, and so much so, like, when you get cold feet, um I was like, I like sat with it for a moment, and I was like, I'm scared to take this leap, but I'm going to do it anyways because I know that what's on the other side of this leap is way more grandiose than what I am stepping on now. Like, it's way more foundational, and it's way more sturdy, more stable than what I am on now. And I feel like for me, I've been stuck and I've been sabotaging for so long because I'm like, oh, I'm afraid. I don't want to take that leap. Like, how am I gonna do this? Da 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 da. Da. All the stories that want to come up and repeat themselves. But I'm like, I'm at this point where I'm like, nah, you're gonna do this shit scared anyways. And and so much so that I've been really like downsizing everything. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I feel like I've become okay, content with just giving everything away and really starting really, really, really fresh. Like
Mhm.
all the clothes, everything, like, because I'm like, this is a lot. Like, even me minimizing stuff, I'm like, wow, I still have a lot of stuff. And
Mhm.
I'm like, do you want to take all this? And I'm like, some of it does need to come because, it's investment. But no, like, but to go back to the Shakti woman, like, there was something that they said that I read about, like, even anger, and it's like, we
Mhm.
even suppress all of that, for saving face, how black folks be saying it, um and it's like, now you gotta tell it how it is, and
Mhm.
you gotta tell people how it is, you gotta tell it how it is. And I'm saying that because it's not only to others but to yourself as well. And
Yeah.
I had to really sit and tell myself what it is. Like, baby
Yeah.
girl, you've been sabotaging yourself all this time. Keep
Wow.
saying you're gonna do it, and you don't do shit. Um, you kind of like, um you get so excited that you start telling people your plans, and then you get gratification out of that you don't even do anything.
Oh, come on.
You get the
Come on.
you get the you get the gratification out of just saying stuff. And I'm like, and it's something that I'm still learning, because I'm still like, I'm so, because when you were a kid, you just want everybody to know, like, your excitement,
Yeah,
you want to share your excitement.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm learning to be, not specific, but to be, what's the word? I guess to be discerning of who I share my stuff with, my plans with,
Mhm.
because I don't want the energy of my plans to kind of like disperse or be
Yeah.
filled with negativity.
Yes, absolutely.
I've only really been sharing it with people that I feel like are gonna, like, um optimize it, enhance it,
Mhm.
envision it, just like see me doing it, because I've been seeing it. I'm like, yes. Um and and a part of that has really been you know, me calling my energy back, like
Mhm.
noticing how, again, how I've been giving my energy out so willy-nilly. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
no, no, you got things to do, baby girl. Bring it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Bring it all the way back. And or reel it in, or reel it in, right? Like, you could still make yourself available, but it doesn't have to be, you know, real open. And what's coming up now is like the solar plexus.
Mhm.
And um I recently got a womb massage. That massage was hell of intense. Super intense. And I felt like, bringing it back to the transits, like I don't want to be that person, but it definitely felt like cycles ending, like real
Mhm.
big karmic cycles ending.
Mhm.
And I read something on Twitter the other day too. Somebody posted, something about after a while being patient turned into settling. And I was like,
Oh,
woo, what?
Lord of mercy.
God, my edges. Damn. Damn.
They didn't have to
It
drag us like
triggered
that,
me.
right?
Huh?
I said they didn't have to drag us like that.
Facts. So I was like, you know what? Um, you're right though. Right? You're
Mhm.
right. Like I I can be as patient, and I could be, I could see the good, and I could do all the things. But what exactly am I doing in that? Like, is it benefiting me? Is like what's happening? And it's like, nah, I'm not settling. Like I know what I bring, I know who I am, and
Yep.
it's just I feel like it's really like an owning of my power, of my sacral, or of my lower chakras,
Mhm.
really like being empowered by them,
Yeah.
instead of opposed to being disempowered. And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know the power and the energy that I carry. Like, let's start using that to manifest what we want to manifest. And this
Mm.
book is really talking about that too. And I love it because I'm like, oh yeah, that makes mad fucking sense. Like, why waste my energy? And not, I don't want to
Mhm.
say necessarily waste, because I feel like my interactions are all genuine. All of
Mhm.
the ones that I actually let into my orbit.
Mhm.
Um, so like, why, for me, it's like, you don't have to spend all of your energy trying to create something for someone, right? You could use maybe like 1/8 of your energy, because your energy is really big. And then you could
Mhm.
use 7/8 of your energy to create what you want. Um, so it's like, yeah. So it's like, I guess it's learning how to shift gears when I need to shift gears.
Ashe.
It-
Ashe.
It's instead of driving like automatic, driving a shift stick.
That metaphor came up recently too in like one of these conversations. So I totally get what you mean. And I appreciate you musing on that too, because I feel like and we'll get into the cards today. I feel like you are already kind of tapping into like what the vibe of today's field tuning is about, period. Because I'm like, there is something kind of coming down the collective pipeline that's about this like spiritual agility, this ability to like pivot, this ability to know and just, well, I wouldn't even say, I don't know, sometimes discernment can be a little tired to me, but yeah, essentially like discerning like which circumstances deserve what flavor or like texture of energy is being called for. Like certain circumstances call for a lot of like patience, certain chapters call for a lot of like activity. And I think many of us have like seen each ourselves um, through specific cycles that were like, okay, I can kind of almost predict how I'm gonna respond. And like, it's so funny because I'm like, I wrote a whole paragraph about this like field tuning thing that has to do with like, okay, if you can predict how you're going to respond, there's after a certain kind of like muscle building or like muscle cultivation, you can kind of see yourself respond in a different way and kind of pivot and like change some of the channels or like rewire some of the ways that your like responses fire off based on a certain stimulus to like not only just like achieve a certain results because I don't think it's achievement based, but it's almost like open up newer pathways for your energy, your sense of self, and like your engagement with the world to like flow in a different way almost. So I really love
That
that.
yes, yes. And also definitely love that. I want actually I was gonna say something, but I just want that to breathe. So I'm not gonna say anything.
Ashe.
I knew coming in here was gonna be medicine. I was like, oh, field tuning? Let me see.
I'm glad you made it, Jess.
Me too.
Yeah, and I also really love what you said too, because Agnew wrote in the chat and was like, and quoted what you said, being empowered, especially by like the channels that relate to like our lower three chakras, being empowered by them rather than being disempowered or opposed to being disempowered by them. And I'm like, oh my God, when you said that, I physically um like viscerally got a flashback to like ritual work that I used to
Mm,
do with like some of my ancestors, and like when I would kind of ask to be shown like through a visualization, like, okay, what is this thing that we're working on? What is this karmic entanglement, whatever it is that we're untangling? Show me what it looks like. And
mhm,
often the way that I would see it communicated to me is like this like weighted um kind of like dampened lower chakra of some sort of like body, or like just the communication of like how things have accumulated in my ancestry for the lower body to like feel this heaviness and like almost feel like a burden. And I'm like, wow, like I totally feel like a lot of my work most of the time, like when I'm meditating, is to bring like coherence to that part of my body and my that part of my field, and like marry it with the coherence of like my upper chakras, so that there's like, like some people talk about my channel. I'm like, no, like I want to kind of feel my channel. I want to feel it being like ring razor sharp. You know what I mean? So it's like it just, yeah, it kind of feels like, yeah. And Adam says, I love how this conversation is tied to Shakti. I do feel like that's what many lineages like call that connection, that almost primordial connection that many of us can attune to regarding like our somatic connection to the earth and the somatic connection of like our physical vessel, our body. And we had talked about it a little bit in the Sharia Way book club, where we were like talking about like metaphysical anatomy, and I was like, I don't even know why I went there, but I was talking about how like you can kind of mingle and mix these energy centers together and like help them communicate with each other, like help them share like tips and tricks with each other on like how they flow. And so it feels very aligned that this is like also coming up for field tuning as well. Also, thank you, hello to anybody who's listening asynchronously. This is field tuning. I know we started off with a conversation. Today is January 22nd, 2024. And field tuning is a weekly container that happens at 3:30 Louisiana time every Monday here in the Breathing Room Discord. And so feel free to join if y'all like these conversations. A lot happens live that doesn't make it to the recording. So yeah. Um Before I kind of like dive into the cards, I wonder what else is coming up for anyone else. I'll also share the cards so you guys can kind of scry it a little bit before. we dive in. But yeah, I'm gonna hold a little bit more space. Adam says in the chat, yes, feeling spine and that access coming up, which came up yesterday too. Yeah, that came up in Archetypal Hour, a weekly container that Adam holds. Happens every Sunday at 2:30. No, 2:30 or 2 o'clock Louisiana time. Hang on one second, y'all. But yeah, it did. It seems like it feels like there's a running theme. 2 o'clock Louisiana time. Thank you. Ooh, Agnes says something about the earth being the ancestors, not just the earth and the ancestors. Thank you for saying that. I wonder what's gonna come up as we dive into the cards and see. I just wonder what's gonna relate. I love doing kind of like correlations too with like divination. I appreciate you guys kind of pre-gaming pre-gaming the conversation. So for those of y'all who are listening to the recording, the cards that I pulled for today's fill tuning are the Ace of Wands, the Four of Cups. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me read it in order how they came out. The Ace of Wands, the Seven of Cups in reverse, the Four of Cups, and the Three of Swords again. At the bottom of the deck, we have the High Priestess. And then I pulled two oracle cards from my ancestors' Angels and Ancestors Oracle deck, which some people might be familiar with. And we have the Wise One, which is an oracle card that supports us in growing within our current situations. Then we have the Elder card, which supports us in moving beyond ancestral patterns. And so these are the cards just for the week. And I want to start off with the Ace of Wands and sort of read off to you all something I wrote just a bit in advance. And what I wrote was that the Ace of Wands represents the rebirth of spiritual fire within the temple of the body. Wands relates to fire. And in this case, we see a full-fledged display of a person, an idea, or a goal being washed in primordial fire, representing renewal, health, zeal, and an overall sense of being in right relationship with our desires. The baby on the card bursts out of its egg, symbolizing a ripeness regarding one's desires. Go forth and conquer your goals, knowing that the heat of spirit is drawing you near to actualize your goals into material reality. So it seems like the beginning of this week or the start of this week, um, it just relates to everything I think we've been talking about. But I think that this card is bringing our attention to whatever goal, desire, manifestation, or internal cultivation we might be embarking on, and how that if you are like part of a camp of people who's feeling like almost flushed with a new reservoir of energy, either being like opened up or you're just like, oh my gosh, I have all this energy. I feel super happy. I feel kind of like on top of the world, just feeling flush with vital energy. I would say trust it. I would say trust it because it looks like spirit is pointing our attention to recognize and almost tune into that felt sense of revitalization, especially because of like, I mean, where we are in the world in particular in North America and other places in the world, it's obviously different, but It's a really tough winter for a lot of people here, and I feel like um, this is about like internal warmth and like, and it can span from the physical things you do to cultivate warmth, and it can span from the metaphysical things you do to like cultivate warmth. And so um, I'm really being called to like also bring in the anima, the part of our vessel and our experience that is deeply primal in a beautiful way. And this whole reading is about trusting that part of our intuition. I'll just be honest with you guys. Like the whole sense of it is about trusting that part of our intuition. But the Ace of Wands is like you are being like offered this like sense of like primordial cosmic fire. Um, and also like almost like this behind the scenes adage of spirit being like, and make sure you use it wisely, which also really relates to Gaia, what you were saying earlier, just about your goals. I won't say them because it's being recorded. Um, but yeah, about your goals, about keeping certain goals that we may have sacred. Um, I tend to often be called to like keep a lot of my moves under the radar until they're like materialized. So I also feel like there could be something here related to like what you said, Gaia, about like if you are going to seed your desires in the field, in your relational field with different people, make sure that they're people who can like hold the vision with you as well. And so the next card that we have is the Seven of Cups in reverse. But before I get into that card, I want to hold some space and see how this lines up for y'all so far. Adam says, can you repeat the first part one more time regarding the temple? Yeah. I think what I wrote is this card represents the rebirth of spiritual fire within the temple of the body. So almost like what I see is like these two, like a plug and a socket, like fitting back into one another and powering something up. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad that that translates. Ooh. And Adam says Hestia was in my field last week, which, if I remember correctly, is the goddess of the hearth. Ooh, tending to the sacred fire. Adam writes at Mount Olympus. Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely like some potent imagery coming in through that. And I appreciate you sharing that, Adam. And it actually brings me to the next card pretty seamlessly. So, with the Seven of Cups in reverse, I'm going to refrain from like my personal interpretations. I'm going to just read off what I channeled earlier, and then I'm going to hold some space because it almost feels like we're building up the reading. I also feel like this Seven of Cups in reverse relates directly to an orientation that Spirit might be inviting us to try on. So let me read what I have. Sevens are about inner work, mutability, and since this is a cup card, it's also ruled by the mutable water sign, Pisces. Seven also concerns the inward cultivation of reflection after action has been initiated. What does this mean? Well, the Seven of Cups represents an archetypal figure who is casting spell work through the medium of the ethers. This figure is working with fantasy, dreams, and the signature of daydreaming to receive insight. However, this card can also speak to the danger of living in a world of fantasy. Though she is working with the energy of water to fill her cups, she is also keyed into the rush of water and somewhere, somehow, knows that there's a potential of drowning as the water fills the scene. The cups are filling, and the figure also exudes a sense of peace. trusting that what she sees in her visions are just right for her. However, when this card is in reverse, it can speak of the tendency for having unrealistic desires. It can also speak to how mystical vision can sometimes make one assume that there is no legwork to be done. When you consider your dreams, are they purely in the fantasy, in the realm of potential? Sorry, when you consider your dreams, are they purely in the realm of potential? Are there wishes, fantasies, and desires that you have but you're not sure how to bring to life? This card being in reverse speaks to also challenging beliefs you may have around what you may have deemed as the perfect circumstance, quote unquote, to bring your dreams to life. Are you waiting for information that would be best found walking the path instead of standing at the shore? If so, how can you make tangible steps toward clarifying your inner vision? So yeah, I wonder I wonder what that brings up for y'all. That was a pretty deep. I love the 7 of cups because I will say that that's the only personal adage that I'll add is that I often um relate the 7 of cups to um my astral traveling card. And so when I read the booklet and I was like doing a little bit of cross research, when I like found out that it was about like fantasy and like mysticism, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. This makes perfect sense. So Guy says in the chat, of course, because drag me. Adam says, interesting with the ace. Why am I feeling take your dreams seriously, but not literally right now? Ooh, ooh. I'm laughing because my dreams have been absolutely wild lately. So that really speaks to me. And I feel like that really aligns. Like that's the wisest like distillation of all of that for sure. Agnes says, "Yeah, I love this. I've been away from explicit spiritual practice for a while, but last night had a strong, I think, urge to meditate. Card one, but or I didn't, but plan to. And in the past, when I have phases of a lot of spiritual practice, I tend to get extremely ungrounded. So card two sounds like a very reasonable warning. Yeah, man. It's interesting that you say warning too, because there's something something in this container that feels that way. I mean, I will say field tuning is kind of like downstream of like my own metaphysical and like spiritual practice. So I apologize in advance if any of this feels like real omany or like, like please just lightly allow this offering to sit outside of your field. And that's I know it's hard to say because y'all are here on the live call, but I feel like I have to say it. But yeah, that really relates. What else did I also want to say? Yeah, it does feel like there's a parallel between the Ace of Wands and Seven of Cups. Pretty, linearly too. Linearly as well. Oh, Agnes says maybe reminder is a better way to say than warning. Yeah, totally. All right, I'm going to move on to the next card. The next card we have is the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups represents getting clear, refining down to simple truths, hurt feelings, and something feeling off in one's inner universe. And so if you look at the Four of Cups, the figure in this card is kind of doing what the figure in the Seven of Cups needs to do. And so the figure in the Four of Cups is stripped down, naked, walking along the shore between the river and the ocean. She's in the midst of ritual, but instead of calling down power, she is cleansing and purifying her vessel as an offering to whatever may greet her in this next chapter of life. This card indicates giving time and space to hurt feelings, nurturing your wounds, and clearing the space they have been taking up in your emotional body. How do you do that? I would suggest maybe plan a ritual, partner with the water elements, imbue the water with intent, and to symbolically douse yourself with the water or in your house or on your body, and ask your ancestors to support you with ritual ideas, and clarity will find you. And so there's something really beautiful about this Four of Cups figure because she also looks like she's like balancing something. And so that's kind of what the Four of Cups reminds me of, like internal balance. Um, as the like, like the caption to the Ace of Wands. There's a huge burst of energy, probably collectively, and also probably like just in this reading, or might be upcoming for us this week. And I think that it's funny because when you think of anchoring yourself, you think of maybe earth, or maybe some people do. I wouldn't say all of us do, but um, there's almost this calling and this recognition of water being this cleansing, purifying agent, this primordial element that helps us um, ma- like kind of like match our biorhythm to the flow of water, if that aligns or makes any sense. Yeah, thanks for responding, y'all. Yeah, I'm glad this is tracking. Does anyone want to say why this aligns, or like what it's bringing up for y'all in your own personal path?
I feel like thank you for that. I feel like what's coming up really quickly is how when you mentioned the water, right? Is how water has no form. However, it can take any form it wants.
Mhm.
So being that shapeshifter, I think as you mentioned, for me really resonates because I, in I guess right now in my path, it feels like up until this point, I've tried to box myself in, and it's like, why?
Mm,
You don't fit in any just you don't fit in any just one box, right? You fit in all the boxes. So why just try to fit in one? Um, so it feels resonant in the sense that I could do whatever I want, whatever I choose to do. And even when you were talking about the Seven of Cups in reverse, I was like, drag me. Because one, being a Pisces, and
right.
that the fact that that specific card is ruled by Pisces or it's a reflection of Pisces can really go to show how even in our mysticism, I don't want to speak for in general for Pisces, even though I feel like it is a fact. Um, we could get I could get stuck in being so much in the feminine that I forget to do anything. And I'm like, oh, it's just gonna come to me because I'm manifesting it, I'm envisioning it, I'm seeing it, I'm calling it in. Yet I'm not really doing any physical forward movement. So the fact that that came up makes a lot of sense. Like, it really made a lot of sense, and yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, Jess. I felt dragged by it too, as somebody who really, really like I'm at home in the feminine. Like I'm like, listen, I could be here all day all lifetime. So I'm like, damn, that really aligns for me. And I kind of like take the seven when I pull it, like in my own personal readings, like when I'm just by myself, or like when I'm trying to think of a symbol of myself when I'm doing that kind of work, it very much so is the Seven of Cups. Like I will be that girl if I need to, you know? Like, and I have like literally put cups around me during ritual work before, but at the same time, like, yeah, something about that being in reverse speaks to like almost like a jolt of like, okay, now come back down to earth. And like don't leave what you were dreaming about in the dream world, like bring it back to earth with you. And I think that that's so important for people who are like artists, dreamers, visionaries, creators. At this point in the world, it's important for everybody, child. Because if you're not connected to the divine feminine within, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell. I'm just kidding. I do know what to tell you. But it's also like, yeah, it's almost like this card is like reminding anyone who is on this particular spiritual path that there is this other side to creative process. Um, and that's like part of the like laws of creation is that to like mold things and mold the material or whatever medium you're using into into a certain form um in order to create something. And so it's like, yeah, but I also love what you said too about water being formless. And so like water has this quality where it can fit into form and then also disperse from that, which I feel a lot of the elements actually have, you know? But I do feel like it's important um in this sense of the reading. Like spirit's definitely pointing us to at some point in this week take stock of those things and maybe like flip them on their head and be like, okay, now what do I need to do to make room for whatever this is that I've been cultivating or been holding space for.
Yeah, it listening to you speak just sounds like that that divine union of the feminine and masculine.
Mm,
Um of both those energies. Um Hearing you say that, you feel at home in the feminine, for me that was never the case, right?
mhm,
I guess my comfortability or maybe just my survivor skills has always been over compensating with the masculine.
mhm,
So much so that I was in one of my and I was in class one day for my herbalism apprenticeship, and we were talking about Chinese medicine and how in Chinese medicine they have these charts with the faith and how you could tell somebody's yin, by how their eyes look and how
mhm,
and their feature and their facial features. And the same thing goes with yang. And in that class, I was because again, I've been running masculine all my life. It's like kind of like my face kind of formed into the yang, right? The yang features. But when you look really deeply into into my eyes, they are very yin. And when that realization came, I was like, "Oh shit." I d- yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of fucking sense that I'm very yin, but I've been outwardly yang because I haven't felt safe enough um to be in that yin energy. And now that I'm getting comfortable, I'm like, well, I could be here all goddamn day.
yes. I'm
I don't want to go over there. Like I could be here all day.
hard relate, man. Thank you for saying that. Dang. It's funny because I'm like the yin and yang polarities come up. I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people, I feel like I be feeling like the crux of what people mean when they're talking about having a spiritual practice is to like cultivate their the way that their body either receives or channels yin or yang energy. And so I'm glad that that was brought into this container. Yeah, I'm curious what comes up for others, like, around that. Mhm. Adam says in the chat, "The culture demands us to wear it, it feels like, in many work settings especially." Mhm. Yeah. The Yang mask, in relation to the Yang mask, which Agnew brought up, um, and I feel like it's super prevalent in our culture, just to do that, like what you said, just to survive, to get by. Many people have to be like doing oriented and results oriented, and in order to like even have a stake in like what society ends up being. And I wouldn't say like reject that. I just think that the fact that it's a mask as opposed to like a sincere creative urge is kind of the divide or like the bridge that can be built so that there's like the way that people make moves and the way that maybe even some of us make moves in this world can happen um, in more like aligned ways for ourselves, for like what we desire, and then also like for like the ecosystem in relation to the ecosystem that we live in and that we're part of. Because I feel similar. I'm like, I just got to a place where like the whatever the metaphysical version of a soft girl life is, like I feel like that's kind of where I'm tiptoeing. That's the life that I like desire. And that's why I called it metaphysical, not like the not the soft girl life that's like having a million products. I'm like, no. I personally I can't. But I'm like, yeah, it took a lot of work for me to like get to this place. I'll be real and be honest and be like to get to a place where I could even trust myself to be like, okay, like if I do relax, if I do rest more, I do prioritize myself, like the world won't fall apart. And that was like, I don't know if y'all just heard that. Like my hands just cracked as I was saying that. I'm like, I had to work through it. So I'm glad that we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then Agnes says in relation to what Adam said, that the culture demands us to wear the Yang mask. Agnes says for sure. I also see a lot of compulsive dot dot dot. It's not quite yin masking or not as developed as yin masking, but for example, ducked heads and hunched shoulders representing, I think, avoidance and fear. Yeah, the polarities swing both ways, man. They swing both ways, and I feel like since the egregore is already in the room about like soft life, I also feel like there is this polarity where it's just as easy to like get um into places where like you may be cultivating your yin, you may be learning how to receive, but at the same sense that like before our body learns the difference between receptivity and slowing down and like just I don't know, I guess distortions of that, which would be like stagnancy and like not moving. um I think that polarity is just as well cultivated as the other polarity where things just have to get done. People are super goal and results oriented. I feel like both of those polarities are a an expression of sacral energy, um and application of like solar energy that just can't quite fire off at the same harmonics, just to kind of like get on it, like look at it from a metaphysical level. Um, But I think it's also that like people feel pressured by certain programs and conditioning to waver or like be swayed in one way or another. But I also feel like with integrating those polarities, expressing those polarities in different ways, in different safe containers, um, I feel like that can change it. Like that can change how any one given person can swing one way or the other, if that makes sense. Yeah. And Agnew says it's funny because I instinctively feel that yin masking will never really replicate real yin. How do you fake relaxation? But the same is true for yang. Yang masking isn't yang. Real action is wholly different. Definitely. Definitely. I love that. And I read that at 444 here. Okay. I'm going to get to the next couple cards, but I appreciate you guys for reflecting. Um, that felt really alive for me. Thank you. And so the next card that we have is the Three of Swords. And I wrote in my notes, I said, bruh, not this card again. Because it came up last week. And I'm like, yo, this card is hilarious to me. So this is what I wrote for it. Um, I said, bruh, not this card again. I get the sense that this card represents an inner conflict of the mind, being unsure which perspectives will lead one's decisions, and how the ritual that I mentioned doing earlier with the water and purifying, cleansing ritual. So with that ritual, it suggested that that might help you find clarity. The Three of Swords also represents the potential or the pressure of feeling like one needs to respond to new situations with old relational tactics. In other words, are you responding to life as a past version of yourself? Is the divine or spirit offering you new timelines to show up differently and you find yourself struggling to do so? This card represents a warring of wits and can even speak to timelines of old coming up in current time to help one reflect more deeply to how they would like to respond to circumstances moving forward. Mindfulness feels key here. So to kind of like bring the whole reading together while also like highlighting this card, to me it just straight up feels like and if I could say it right, like, okay, clear out mental patterns, then the next question would be like, but how do you do that? And then it's like, okay, but like go to the ritual, like I'm like I can map it out, but it also feels like if I had to like whittle this whole reading down into like a too long don't read, it would be like about creating the space to allow the goals and the desires that you have in your life or what you see for yourself come into fruition, and to practice being mindful with your own self, whether it's through inner dialogue, reprogramming that inner dialogue, journaling, whether it's saying affirmations, whether it's chanting, using your spiritual tools basically to front load the mental work that you can do to unpack some of the narratives that may just cause us to respond in like old ways, which is like totally normal, which is, I'm like, it happens to all of us, but it also feels like this week is, it might even be like the mental patterns that you may have been carrying from last week. No tea, no shade. But Spirit really wants you to know that it's like, not only is it okay, but that there is some correlation between the ritual that I did suggest and the possibility of like, um, opening to a new, more mindful relationship with yourself, and maybe being more mindful when you notice things like when you notice yourself like maybe walking or moving in certain patterns, particularly in relation to like how we show up and like how our minds tend to view any given circumstance at any given time. So I'm also seeing like maybe this is like a head cleansing ritual, especially because we have this correlation between like the cups, which is like water, and then we have um the Three of Swords, which represents air and the mind. So I would even like, if you have time, if you have space, like just say some intention with like a cup of water and like pour that over your head if you can. Like, I don't have the hairstyle to do that right now, but I feel like there's so many different ways you can anoint your forehead. Um, you know, go crazy, go crazy. But it does feel like mindfulness is important. Um, it also feels like too, because the high priestess is at the bottom of this reading. Um, it also might mean that like, so the like interplay between water that I brought up earlier, between water and air, it could also allude to the fact that your intuition might be functioning stronger than your intellect this week, and letting that kind of be okay. Like giving yourself, maybe you can't do it all the time, maybe you have like stuff you need to focus on, but it almost feels like the high priestess under all of these cards is really, really, really encouraging us to be like, okay, like set some time aside to like do something that is intuitive, or allow this ritual to be the thing that you do intuitively, even though I'm suggesting it. Maybe the intention maybe the intention is the thing that that you can kind of like leave up to spirit. But it does, yeah, I think ultimately this this week is about like paying attention to the wisdom in your body. That's like advice I would give anytime. Paying attention to your natural rhythms, your cravings, and inviting you to breathe more deeply. And again, just yeah, letting this be a week. If you haven't ever given yourself a week, let this be a week to be led by your intuition. Um, and then again, like the high priestess, I feel like is doubling down on that, like just something simple that represents a ritual, maybe in favor of these goals, maybe in favor of breaking these patterns. But the atmosphere for sure feels ripe for it, I'll say. I'm curious what kind of comes up for y'all. Agnew, I'm curious if you want to read what you wrote in the chat out loud, if you can, for sure. Take your time. Oh my gosh. I wonder if so, Guy says all this water talk is making me believe that one of these days the moon is going to be in Pisces. I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up because it feels like, yeah, that aligns for me. Okay, hold on, let me look it up real quick. Okay, so the March. Wait, no, I'm just kidding. Hold on. No way, on January 25th. It's this week the moon is going to transit to Pisces. January 25th. So that's in 3 days. Oh, snap. So that's on Thursday. Go, Gaia. Come on, intuition.
Is this working?
Yeah. What's up, Agnes?
Hey, so what I wrote was to incorporate this card into what I was saying before. Card 1 is You Are Here. Card 2 is Don't Forget What You Learned to Not Do Last Time. Card 3 is Try This Instead. Card 4, I took it to mean this will reveal that your mind personality is still fragmented and that it will wash away the grime and dust covering up these internal divisions. And then just read ahead. Um, Card 5 is sort of the suggested form of the mediating self image for the process of recombination.
Dang, bro. Thank you for that map. That all really
You're welcome.
aligns. Yeah. Yeah, and I do kind of like structure field tuning as like that. Um, that kind of, yeah, like that straight and narrow, like what to do, where to go, how to direct these energies. So I'm glad that you were able to summarize it. I'm gonna screenshot that too. Thank you, thank you. I'm also wondering, Guy, with you like guessing it correctly about the full moon being this week, I wonder if there's room for like a collective ritual on Thursday um in the broom, like on radio, because I'm like, this is shaping up to be fun. And if not, if you're gonna do the ritual by yourself, Thursday might be a good day to do it. Just saying. And then yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to say was that the two oracle cards that I pulled, one of them being the wise one, the other being the elder card to move beyond ancestral patterns. I think these oracle cards are just a further affirmation, a further confirmation that much of what's in field tuning, much of what's being offered in this container is an opportunity for y'all, or for me, or for anyone listening to uh, refine our relationship to our ecosystem, refine our relationship to our inner ecosystem. Kind of like Agnew said, like you're here, and this is how you get to here, and this is like what you do with what you see. And I feel like the Elder card is one of my favorite cards in this deck. It talks about going beyond ancestral patterns. And I think that relates directly to the Three of Swords card, reminding us to be compassionate when we do see these patterns that we might be stuck in, because they might just be beyond us, might be beyond this lifetime, and that's okay. And also, like the tools that you have are the things to help you. I won't even say break the pattern, rewire the pattern and redirect that energy in generative and like helpful ways. Oh, love the time sync. Yeah. I, I'm gonna let Craig off just so yeah, the recording can be stored. Thank you to everyone who's listening to this asynchronously. Thanks for vibing with me. And I appreciate y'all. I'll be here next week. Same time, same place. Peace.